If you haven't already watched the video I made about how to use oil pastels and blend them, then please watch that first. So this is a Ton Schulten section that I'm going to reproduce using oil pastels, and I've already got my selection of oil pastels here. What I've got here is the white, and the reason I'm going to use white first of all is because I've got sugar paper which isn't white. If I had white paper, the brightness of the white would show through the colour, but because it's brown, I'm going to need to put some white surface down onto the areas that I want to be nice and bright. So you'll see in the Ton Schulten that the sky and the orange bit at the front and the in between the trees and the yellow bit are really nice, bright, vibrant colours. So I'm going to put some white down first on these sections just to ensure that my colour comes out really nice and vibrant. Okay, so I've just zoomed in. I'm starting off by putting the lightest colour first, which is the light orange, and then I'm going to add the darker colours on top. So I'm going in again then and blending together some reds and some oranges. And you've really got to work these into each other, layer by layer. Obviously, I've speeded the film up. Okay, so I'm going to move on to the sky. So I've picked again the lightest tone in the sky. I'm blending in with a bit more white. And then I'm going to go gradually darker and darker to achieve that gradient effect. So you can see that I'm not pressing really hard. I'm just doing it in layers really, and then layering more and more colour on top of each other. It really is about blending and layering your colour to get as accurate a match as you can to the original. I'm going to try and do this. This is my darkest blue, which is sort of like a navy blue, but it's not quite black enough. So I'm going to have to take some black and blend that in. But notice that black is the last colour that I use, because if you start off doing your darkest colours, you end up with a lot of sort of mucky grey colours. So your black and your darks are always the darkest colours that you need to use on any area. I'm just going to go back in with this lighter blue now to try and blend the whole thing together, to bring the whole thing into more of a gradient. Okay, so I've done a little bit more. I've done the yellow band and the tree, and I put white under them. And I'm just going to finish off these bits by adding the colours between the trees. And these are the last areas that I'm going to actually put white down on, because if you look at the original, you see these are the brightest areas. But the rest of the trees are all quite dull looking, so I can just go straight in with the colours that I think I'm going to need to use without putting white down before. So it's just a case of putting down colours that you think match quite well and gauging whether you think they do, and then adding other colours on top to see if they, achieve the desired effect. Again, here I'm going in with some black on top of the red to achieve that darker red. So now I'm going to do some outlining in black, because in the actual painting there's quite a black outline in some bits. But notice again, this is one of the last colours I use. So in oil pastel, you always want to use your black last and your white first. Lightest colours first and darker colours last. That just avoids you getting that horrible mucky sort of grey effect. If you touch the colour early on, it'll spread fingerprints everywhere. So it's a good rule to use. Okay, so just looking at my colours and trying to blend colours into each other by rubbing them on top of each other. So oil pastels are really meant to represent oil paint, and they do blend together really, really nicely. You'll find as you use them, the heat from the friction on the paper actually makes them sort of melt into each other. So it does give you a nice painterly effect, which is why it's a good idea to use them at the moment, as we're not using paint. See, my last colour I'm going in with now is the black, because I really want to avoid getting any dirty marks into the orange. So I've just shaken off all the excess little bits, and just going to finish off the last bit of my tree. And I think we're more or less there. Okay, so that's the finished thing. So all I need to do now is to trim that and stick it in my sketchbook. It's more or less there.